8:35, everybody. All right, prom season. It is upon us. In the age of social media, teens are under a lot of pressure, really, to live up to the trend.
I remember that. Don't you remember
Yeah, it was
that?
so easy.
Yeah, parenting these days requires managing expectations and boundaries. And that's the focus of today's Picks Parenting Plus segment. So joining us this morning with some advice on how to strike the balance is clinical psychologist Dr. Jeff Gardere. So great to have you here in studio, Dr.
Great
Jeff.
to be with you guys. You know, I never got to go to my prom back in the
I remember
60s.
you saying this,
Yeah,
yes.
you remember that because I was too much of a nerd. But you know what they say to nerds now, right?
What?
Hey, sexy.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's so true. But you know, as we wrap up this school year, there's a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress, not just for kids, but also for their parents. But let's start with the kids.
Okay.
You got end of year tests. You've got, you know, making sure that you can get the grades to get into whatever school you want to get. There's school dances. There's so much and so much pressure. How do we handle that, especially with these kids going to prom? Oh, am I going to get asked to the dance? Am I going to look cool? Oh my goodness, so much.
Yeah, all those promposals and all those big productions. Well, you know, first of all, with high school students especially, what we're looking at is that they're making major life transitions. They're worried about what relationships will be once they get into college. What will their lives be after that? So I think it's really important that we have an open communication with them where they can talk about what some of these angst and anxieties are all about. But more than anything else, be able to normalize a lot of that stress and anxiety. That's part of our lives, and that's certainly part of their lives. And being able to say to them, it's okay to feel this way.
Right.
But as long as we're able to talk about it and give you some strategies to help you through it, perhaps use yourself as an example, how you may have gotten through that or how you're coping with these things even now, later in life, I think it's really important. It's the support that they need.
Validate the feelings.
Exactly.
Validate the feelings. Exactly.
You know, it's interesting because there's so much pressure that goes into the promposal.
Yeah.
And as a parent, you then have to endure the cost of some of these, right?
That's
because
right.
the cost of some of these, plus the cost of the outfit and everything else. And I think back to my parents who are both school teachers having to rent the tuxedo and all this stuff. So as the parent trying to manage the expectation. How do you do that?
Well, that's really tough, right? And so what we see, I think it's really important to set a budget right from the very beginning.
Okay.
But make sure that your child buys in, if you will, into that budget, that they're part of the decision-making process. Letting them know what things cost, and if they blow all the money just on the tuxedos or the dresses, does that leave enough money for getting a decent limo or hanging out with their friends afterwards?
Oh my gosh, thinking back on it.
And staying away from that social media that has these, you know, big productions. It really doesn't have to be about that. It's really about having the experience and being with your friends.
And I shouldn't say most of the time. A lot of the time, what they're seeing on social media isn't even real, especially in the age of AI. You know, the way people are making themselves look. But there are also like apps that kids can use and put their face on someone else's body wearing something that they can clearly not afford. So what is the age, though? Because since AI is so prevalent, what's the age that we should allow our children?
I would say, and the research is showing from ages 5 through 10, we should try to keep them off of AI.
Okay.
Though AI is part of their toys and maybe part of their educational programs, it's important that we really stay upon, you know, on that. I was talking to Stacey Ann in the hallway. She said, you know, with her children, she makes sure that she's on top of everything that they watch. So it's really about the guidance, making sure that whatever the apps are with AI, that they go through your account as an adult, but also teaching them about just what you said, how there are deep fakes, you know, how people can use this in a very negative way. But AI can be a force for good if you keep it minimal, especially when they're younger, and making sure that you guide them as to how to use it for school and so on.
Yes, two things. Number one, just to remind your kid or just that it's okay to also go to the prom alone, that you may not
Yes.
have to have a date
yes,
because you're amongst
yes,
friends.
absolutely.
I feel like most kids go by themselves
Yeah,
now
and that's
these
the
days.
thing. It's like it's just a big hangout. So if you don't get that date or whatever because you're seeing somebody, it's fine. It's okay.
Yeah, you don't need the date.
yeah.
You can be there. Everyone else is your date.
Exactly. But let me talk about setting the example as the parent, because this is where personally I'm struggling a bit, because I'm glued to the phone to make sure I'm connected to work and things like that, and I'm hearing the "Daddy, put your phone down," right? So to set the example for AI and things like that, we have to be the example.
That's right.
Which is hard sometimes.
That's right.
Not a bad example.
That's right. And you see me smiling at you because I knew you before you were a parent. We've been doing this for so long.
Yeah.
I knew you when you were a single guy.
Yes.
Still young, though.
Yeah. Thank you.
You know, I think it's really important for us as parents to set that example. So that means having tech-free zones in the house, whether it's the bathroom or whether you're eating, you know, in the living room or at the kitchen table. You don't allow the devices to be there. Setting a schedule is really important. Now, I know our kids are going to coerce us and, you know, scream and yell when we put them on that schedule. But I can tell you, and I can tell you personally, as a father of many children and going through all of this, that eventually that they make that adjustment. And here's the big secret. It's not such a secret. They want you to be involved in setting that example and showing them how to use this AI. You talked about, Governor Hochul talked about, listen, we don't want our kids getting addicted to these phones, and I think that's a great first step in making sure that you put them on a schedule, not allow them to take it to school and so on.
It's hard not to beat ourselves up, though, because I will admit I am not the best example about devices.
Yeah.
I mean, it's always in my hand. I mean, a lot of it has to do with work.
Yeah.
But my kids, it's like, if we're going to follow Daddy in examples, a tech-free zone is not the bathroom, because that is where the device is always in there for hours and hours.
Well, that's why you got to check that bathroom. Right?
Exactly.
What are you doing in there?
Right, exactly.
Thanks so much for coming in. It's so great to see you.
It's a pleasure, Hazel. Great to see you, Dad.
Yes, of course.